Sadly, this isn't a family portrait.
Come on.
This is just some rando that I found.
You have this amazing story.
I should put my parents in there.
It's like having...
Actually, that's a great call. I need to find like a good classic picture of my grandpa.
Or you need to get I forgot the artist's name. There's an artist in Salt Lake. They get those classic pictures, and then they'll paint Godzilla in the middle of it.
I've seen that. Those are cool.
Those are expensive.
Are they really?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, they put it in perfectly. I've seen some ones of some dudes duck hunting, and it just you have these ducks, and then you have these TIE fighters coming in, things like that. It's pretty funny. You can't beat pop culture mixing it in. It goes
perfect.
Back to your logo. Nobody understands the toy machine logo.
See, and I actually thought when we were doing that, because I want that as a hoodie. We've never really made apparel or anything for us. I've been bad about. I don't have a website. I don't have swag.
Yeah, I was gonna bust your butt about the website. I'm you have this elegantly done office space. You have a great marketing, industry staple, and you don't have a website. That says something about your work ethic, though. At the same time, you have enough business coming in. I mean, do you need a website? Do you need to put time into that?
I'm clearly on the side of no.
Yeah.
My team is we need it. We could get better candidates. I mean, I think my team's great. So do they, but they're there are probably deals that we lose because of it. And I'm maybe, but I could build our stuff or I could build stuff for our clients. Let's just keep building for our clients. Let's keep winning that way.
But at the same time, if you need to say you have a client looking at you guys, obviously they get referenced by me or by Jess or something like that. And they're okay, who have they worked with? But they're just kind of lowball, checking you out.
Yeah.
They're hey, we've worked with this. We've done this.
I know.
This is our example. That would be the only drawback right there, I would say.
Oh, there's definitely drawbacks. I will say some of it is also kind of when you're a creative agency, we like to focus on performance-based creative.
Yeah.
But when we're building our own website and we're not running ads, we're not doing that, it's very subjective.
Oh, so much.
And if we build a site that we like, but someone else doesn't, it's, it feels like there's just extra pressure on it, where instead I can be hey, we've done DazPak's website. We've done Camo Fires. We've done Naboso and Chirp. Go look and you can see the range of things.
Yeah.
As opposed to just come look at mine, and if you don't like my style, then you're out.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can do previous work in your category drop downs, and then you have a list of quality brands and businesses, and it shows your bandwidth of, hey, we can do it this way or that way. We can take it all. We're artists. We like this artistic angle, but at the same time, you have to have all the new bells and whistles. So instead of every 3 years dropping a new website, or every 2 years, you're dropping
6 months.
6 months. Yeah. So for all those web developers out there, this podcast for
you. Dude, the smog outside.
Oh, it's garbage.
I've been fine. Mm-hmm. The last 4 or 5 days we've had okay.
Yeah.
Came back yesterday. Yeah. This cough, and I just wanted. I'd do anything to get rid of this thing right now.
We have the storm system coming through right now.
I know, I'm crossing my fingers.
20 plus in the mountains. A, going to get good snow days, and B, going to get the smog out. So that'll be good. And we've got another storm system behind it. So hopefully that'll be good. And that was what was awesome last year with a huge snow season. We had no smog.
Dude, it was so nice last year.
Very nice. But on the flip side of that, from, industry I've been working in recent, did it crush the deer population? Something
did it
brutal.
Really?
Yeah. You have that balance of, okay, we need water. We're in basically high desert state. And, we'd been in a drought for a couple years, multiple years. Mm-hmm. And then this thing swung us way left, but there's give and take in it. You want 500 to 650 inches a year, then cut it off at that. But the other plus to it is it stayed cold all year. So the snow never melted down. We had that good snow cycle, 2 weeks ago or so?
Yeah.
And then it got dude, I went out the other day and it was like 45 degrees on the hill. Now it was great riding in a t-shirt and just taking hot laps with the kids. But dude, it chews snow. It chews snow fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you take the kids to ride?
Brighton. Yeah. I've been
classic, dude.
I always got to keep it classic like that. But I mean, you know, I did marketing. I ran the marketing for Snow Basin for 5 years. So,
Wait, I didn't know that.
oh, you didn't?
So
Sorry.
I grew up in Layton.
Yeah. So
Dude, I learned how to ski on Becker. Like Becker was my
there anymore. They've switched out they switched out Wildcat right after I left. I swear they switched out Becker, and they had it since the Olympics. They had a line cut for between Strawberry and the main basin area.
Yeah.
A lift that would take you and drop you off at the hip, so you didn't have to go all the way up to
Yes.
Strawberry where it gets socked in all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude,
We just double check that we're on. Dalton can't make this
How are
one.
you?
Okay.
We're running? That's awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy your call.
But yeah, I ran the marketing. Like I've been in outdoor sales and marketing for 20, 25 years. That's what brought me. I was a wannabe snowboard athlete that came out here, and my knees and my back told me different of that. So
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from New Hampshire. Yeah, born and raised. Went to
Dude, people from the Northeast love Salt Lake City.
dude, they absolutely love it. So from the kids who were in my graduating college class, there were 14 of us that came out here, and that was
You're kidding me.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
There's 2 of us left. My friend Tony, she married a ski patroller up at the Bird, and then myself, and that's it. We might have 1 or 2 that kind of, they're nomads that kind of come in and out, but yeah, came all out here. My first, let's call it industry job, I was a schlep and tech rep for K2 snowboards, and worked for an amazing individual that I considered one of the guys I really looked up to, and I still do, a guy named Rob Howland. And
Was Luke at K2?
Luke Edgar, oh yeah, he was my boss's boss.
Yeah, dude.
So-
I worked for Luke.
That was, because you worked for him at Skull Candy.
Yeah.
So, that was he used to do this thing called Festival, and they rented, dude, the stickers were amazing, by
I
the
bet
way.
they were. Knowing Luke.
Yes, Luke, amazing style. But they rented out Mount Baker, period, and just threw a massive party. And it was awesome. So Rob couldn't make it up because he had a bone spur in one of his ankles. So he's like, all right, you're going up, have fun. You're staying with one of my biggest accounts. Just don't make a fool of yourself. Come on. Made a complete fool of myself. Got a
That's
phone.
the industry.
I got street cred, but at the same time, Rob's like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, early 20s, just snow bro.
At Baker.
yeah.
And
it was nuking snow, even though it was in April. It was crazy. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get an experience that was that unique again. You know, obviously I'm older in life now and things like that, but yeah.
But at the time, that's a monumental type experience.
Huge. And I rode every day. I was there for 4 days. It was just awesome. I remember all right, I'm going to be the cool guy. I flew in super early. And so I went to Fisherman's Wharf, I did all it was that.
All the tour. You went to the gum wall.
Yeah. All the touristy stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, I'm going to get some really nice alcohol because I'm staying that you could drive RVs up there. And I was staying with this account that was in an RV. I hadn't read everything about what Festival was going to be. And I'm like, so I go to the booze store and it was still early. It was me and a bunch of bums hanging out there. So I'm like, all right.
Okay. Well, we're going to throw this down, I guess.
Yeah. And that's how I wrote out on that. But yeah, that kind of started my career. I had some other little things here and there. And
Sorry, what year was that?
It's the year of the Olympics, 2002. That was the year I went out there.
Dude, I think it was 2001 or 2002 in January I went to Baker for Zoomies. And because
That was like when they first started doing 100K stuff.
Yeah.
That's still going huge right now. I just saw photos from one.
Dude, I remember when the first one at Baker, we called up every person by name to be recognized for selling $100,000.
Zoomies
The last
so
year I was
small.
there in 2010, it was so big that now it wasn't sell 100K and you're guaranteed in. It's like you have to sell 100K minimum, but then only the top like 1,800 or 2,000 people, because we could not find a resort big enough for the whole company. And it was insane. And we had hundreds of people make 100K, not go to the event because they weren't in the top 1,800, 2,000.
And I remember like hearing about that as 100K got bigger and bigger, people would always complain about the Zoomies in the snow areas because it was such high dollar stuff. It was so easy for them to hit 100K. And then you have some kid at Zoomies in like Texas that's selling, $60,
tough to sell a snowboard.
Vans, and $50 snow skateboards with grip tape. It was really, really funny. But so started there. Bumped around a little bit, but always did some repping stuff. But I had the
rep life is
it's good and it can be bad at the same time.
I've heard that it's great when you're young, and then as you start getting older, it's too much of a grind.
There's some plus and minuses on that, and we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But as got up into repping a little bit, ended up working with this guy named Brad Gobdell, which he basically gave me this half of the territory and let me be, and I was doing like Audio Shoes in their heyday, Planet Earth Clothing.
Oh, dude, Audio Shoes, the Bam Margera's.
Printed money on those things. It was those, the Jeremy Rays, and
the Jeremy Ray. I still remember that with the gum sole.
Yeah, dude, they had so many versions.
It was those, the freaking Osiris D3.
Oh yeah,
and the Globe Chet.
Yep. Don't forget the Kenny V1s, the big Kenny Anderson shoe with that huge wraparound.
It was like you put your foot in a loaf of bread. That's how like big and bulky those shoes were.
Skate them. You blow through the soles before you blow through the sidewalls on those things because they have like inch and a half of rubber sitting on the side, or the mixture they made, and I mean, they had some great shoes. But did that for a little bit. But when I first came out here, I met an amazing girl from Northern California, and we happen to have been together for 20 plus years. We have 2 kids together. We're married, but she worked for a corporate securities law firm that actually they're the #1 law firm in the country, and they had a office out here, and she was the executive assistant for the managing partner. Well, they managed backcountry.com at that time.
Oh yeah.
So she got me access to work for Backcountry. I was coaching snowboarding at the time and repping, so I was just doing a bunch of stuff, but the Backcountry guys realized what they had. I was 25, 26 years old. So coarse snowboard. Like it was almost a detriment. And I got in with them, and they had launched this fledgling website at the time called dogfunk.com.
Oh, dude.
And it was a very, very
good old
slow
Dog
start.
Funk.
Yeah. But they realized, a bunch of great individuals at that company. They've created marketing and salespeople all through the industry, gotten them their starts.
Yep.
So they had a super soft start. It was actually failing. And then they're like, well, hey, why don't we give you the brand and merchandise manager role for it? And this was my break. Still today, it set my career for today. And I took them from a very, very minimal number to double-digit millions in under 18 months. Gosh. And
I remember the rise of Dog Funk.
It just went from 0 to 100.
It's all anyone wanted to talk about.
But the whole persona of it was giving it that local skateboard snowboard shop feel online.
Yeah.
And so I wrote all the content for it. I remember the first time they went to SIA when they gave it to me, I didn't go with them, and I gave them 43 brands to pick up. Gave them my card and said, if any sales manager or rep is, because they didn't know the legitimacy of backcountry.com. Everybody now knows, they're unbelievable,
they're a major player.
Tree.
Yeah.
But at the time they weren't. And I'm like, give them my card, knew most of the salespeople in and around the industry, and I only got a call from 1 or 2 people. They picked up 42 or 43 of the brands, and it just took off. And when I realized it was just going nuts, GNU had this board out in
freaking GNU, man.
right? They had this board that failed in Japan, and they had a pallet of it. And I was talking with Christian Gennerman. He's like, I don't know about this, because I would help them solidify all the buys, like due to trending and things like that. I'm like, buy the whole pallet. And he's like, sure? I'm like, yep. Bought it, sold them in like a month. It was because nobody had that graphic, right?
Yeah.
It was just limited to the Japanese market. It was really funny. And that
had to be like in the heyday of GNU, LibTech, like
Danny Cass,
that whole world.
Getting silver medals in the Olympics right and left. It was super heyday. And
they were doing some really unique board builds too. The technology coming out of GNU and LibTech was
great.
They were changing things.
The whole Magnetraction. I remember when it first came out. Dude. I was at Backcountry on Jan Snows, and I literally am like, all right, we need to find the iciest stuff possible, and I'm just gonna lay tread to see if this thing breaks out. And it did hold very well. People think it was a little gimmicky, but it did have some value to it. They still have it in their some of their models today. And then the best thing is they said they never ever make skis. And they had this pro skier named Jamie Pierre. And they got him these things called narrow-ass snowboards. You had to buy 2 at a time.
I remember those.
And it was awesome. It was just, once again, their marketing was always fun and always grassroots-oriented. So going back to your guys' Toy Machine spoof on your LinkedIn page, I remember it. You remember it. The core individuals out there. And it was funny.
Well, I got to say on that, I was so nervous that I was going to do that. And people were going to think that we were like biting. But to me, it was more like paying homage to it and a slight, like, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought people were just going to be like, dude, that's too spot on. That's too the same. Most people are like, that idea is the best. Like, I'm like, no. This is an homage to one of my favorite brands of all time. Yeah. Here, and then they look at it and they're like, oh, okay. But I'm surprised how few people get it.
I mean,
maybe it's just that crowd, right? Because it is early 2000s.
Dude, no,
skate.
It was middle 90s.
You're right, 2000s. Middle 90s. Yes.
That's when it first came out.
That's right. That and the Screaming
96.
Hand.
Oh, dude, Screaming Hand, that thing. It's so funny how Santa Cruz was dying. Their mountain bike division was crushing their skate division. And then they embraced that throwback feel.
Yep.
And there's so many variations of the Screaming Hand, and it's awesome. I think it's so cool because you and I grew up with it, and you said both of us have kids in our teens right now. And they're like, Dad, this new graphic is so rad, and you're like, yeah, that's totally a new graphic.
Oh, you think Spitfire is cool? Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to see that stuff.
Well, it's so funny how when we were kids, we wear I wouldn't say Boston or Journey t-shirts, but Zeppelin t-shirts and Bob Marley stuff and things like that, because that was late 70s, early 80s. And now we have kids wearing Ramones, Nirvana stuff, things like that.
Dude, Nirvana's everywhere.
Yeah, it's so everywhere.
And nobody and you ask a kid who, it's a Kurt Cobain shirt. You're like, who is that? They're like,
Well, it was so funny. Classic dad stuff, and they have memes about this. Super music head. If my kids are gonna wear the shirts, they need to know the music.
Yeah.
And I'll make them listen to it in the car and go all that. And it was really funny. Stella, my oldest, she's like, "Hey, Dad." She was at a friend's house. She's like, "Hey, can you get my Nirvana web T-shirt?" I'm like, "Nirvana." I'm like, "Oh, do you mean right next to your White Sabbath T-shirt?" And she's like, "What's White Sabbath?" I'm like, "Oh,
exactly, honey."
I'm like, "All right, honey, it's Nirvana, and the other band is Black Sabbath."
Yeah, so. It's fun though seeing your kids grow up and start. My 13-year-old is hardcore obsessed now with the music that I grew up listening to. I mean, he is a hip hop junkie for sure.
Now, is it Mobb Deep, Cypress Hill, mid 90s or early 2000, I don't know. I mean, Fat Joe was around in the late '90s too. What's he into?
Dude, he loves anything Native Tongues, which if you know, like De La Soul, Tribe, Busta Rhymes, Jungle Brothers.
Scenario, please say he listens to Scenario, like because that has half the Native Tongues in that.
Okay, I don't think he does.
Dude, look up Tribe Called Quest Scenario. They have the video on YouTube. Have him hit it, and he will hit half those dudes.
Okay. He loves Tupac and Biggie. He and I are both like hardcore Wu-Tang fans.
Who isn't? Dude, are you going down in Vegas? They're playing in Vegas.
They're playing in Salt Lake next year.
Wait, really?
This summer, actually. There's a festival.
Oh.
Like TV Girl is there.
All right, I got to check.
You look at this and you're like, Wu-Tang doesn't belong in this with any. I'm going for that.
Dude, done.
Yeah.
I have to go look at that.
Okay, so true story. I was at the U.S. Open in Stratton Mountain, Vermont.
I've been there several times. Remember, I grew up out there through college.
A little bee hill of a resort in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
We're staying at the lodge, and I open up the door, and I see like this. No other way of describing it than like an entourage of black dudes walking towards me, like the fur coats. It's like early 2000s, you know? I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, holy shit, it's Ghostface. Dude, he goes, oh, what you know about Ghostface, white boy? And I was like, I might be white, dude, but I don't F around. I love Wu-Tang. And he's like, well, he's staying across the hall from me. He was like, you smoke bamboo? I'm like, no. And he goes, want to come in and hang? I'm like, yes. So I just hung out with Ghostface the whole weekend. It was one of the coolest experiences. We were on stage during the Rail Jam.
Oh, that's rad. Was this a Zoomies connection?
Thing? Yeah. Somebody threw a snowball at Ghostface while he was performing, and he stopped mid. And this is like right as Pretty Tony's coming out. So it's kind of like the heyday for Ghost. Yeah. And he's like, who did that? And all of a sudden the crowd just separates and they're all pointing at one guy. So Ghostface just like freestyle destroys the guy. And then at the end gets everyone to start hucking snowballs and like, get him the F out of here. And then he just brought the beat back and like it never happened. Just boom, right back into his track.
You could argue him and Raekwon are the two biggest lyricists in the band. Obviously, you've got, the leader of the pack.
Yeah, RZA is
it's genius.
Have you read the Wu-Tang manual?
No, I probably need to do that.
My 13-year-old just read it and he was like, okay, Dad, like now I really get just how cool these guys are.
Book. Like
he's obsessed with reading.
Oh, that's so nice. I struggle with my little ones.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like, all right, I make him listen to NPR with me. Dad, this is so lame. I'm like, this is important. It's world news.
Yeah.
Let's be relevant and long.
I like that you do that.
Yeah. Well, I like my parent, my kids when they end up getting therapy, they're gonna be like, God, my dad just toyed with us constantly.
I think a good dad does that though.
Oh yeah.
You gotta help them tough up a little bit. You gotta let them know you love them in other ways.
Exactly. Back to the Brighton thing. We we go up every Sunday and we get up there a little early. So me and my friend Jared, I'll pull up my camshaft, make breakfast and stuff for him right there at the hill. And it's not the skiing I think they'll remember. It's just like
the moment,
the experience. And I think you talked about it. I listened to a bunch of your podcasts before this, so I knew what I was getting into.
And you're like, well, I should back out.
No.
What are these?
No, these are awesome. It's just real people talking about real things.
Yeah.
But you talked about having experiences for your kids. And you could buy them millions of dollars worth of stuff, and will they remember all of it? No, but you could take them somewhere with beautiful look and feel and things like that, and it's memorable. They'll remember it all. They won't remember every day we skied or every run we took. Mom and dad snowboard, both my kids ski, but they'll remember dad taking them through for park laps and stuff like that. And I'm the 40-something-year-old dad that can still rip through park, and they have friends with other dads. They're like, nah, dude, I'll just meet you at the bottom. I'm like, no, we're going to run some hot laps today. This is what we're going to do.
See, that's so fun.
And they'll remember that, but they'll remember the hot chocolate French fries, the waffles.
And the feeling. They'll just I remember my dad waking me up on Saturday mornings, and we were first ones there. And
exactly.
We spent time together. Like, they'll know the feeling.
You say when you went to Europe, experience.
Yeah.
Dude, I have never been to Europe. I've traveled North America, United States proper, east and west, up and down. I've been to Canada a few times, been to Mexico a couple times, but like my wife's been all over Europe. She spent 9 months in New Zealand. Like, she's so world traveled and just a redneck from New Hampshire, pretty much. But
dude, I never had been to Europe until I was 30, and I went for work.
Awesome.
I went for work, and then I basically, I didn't live there, but I would spend 200 to 250 days a year over there, traveling. It was awesome. It was really rough as a dad to be gone like that. And, like, I can say, well, I've been to New Zealand, but this was a wild experience. When you travel for work like this, there's a weird belief, like, people will go, oh, I love to travel. I love to travel. And I'm like, yeah, I love to travel too, but this is not travel. This is long-term commuting. I remember I had a flight leaving San Francisco. I had a layover in Japan, and the Japanese distributors met us in the airport. We didn't even leave the airport. We have a meeting in between our layover, and then I fly to, I think I flew to all the way down to freaking Australia. And I had breakfast in land. I get out in Sydney, have breakfast, fly and have lunch in Melbourne with a different distributor, fly to Auckland and have dinner with a distributor. And then I got on a plane and we flew to Singapore. And people were like, oh, you've been to New Zealand. How was it? And I'm like, I don't know.
The airport and the inside of the office.
Yeah. Looked great. I hadn't showered in like 4 days, but I hadn't even checked into a hotel room. Yep. It's long distance commuting and it's hard. But it did give me, I was lucky in the sense that many times I would have free time, or my job was to like create super cool experiences for people.
Yeah.
So we'd like climb the top of the Sydney Bridge or base jump off of the Austrian Alps. I mean, we did like amazing, amazing things. And it was then I'm like, this world is too small not to explore. So I've really tried hard to find ways to get my family out and explore. And that doesn't even mean that it has to be somewhere far away, because some of the most beautiful places in the world are in our backyard. Oh, yeah. Moab, Zion, Bryce, like Yellowstone.
Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon right there. We live in a postcard.
It's true.
Like I grew up 5 miles from the ocean, 25 miles from the mountains. Love the ocean, love the mountains, but dude, this place, come on. Like, I remember I posted a picture of like spring, and one of my kids were super just upset, like running down my street. And I'm like, and I put some caption on like Instagram or something like that. That feeling when you know the snowboard season's over and like my kid just screaming, running down the street. And somebody put a tag, one of my friends from New Hampshire put a tag, said, forget that. Look at the mountains behind you. And we take it for granted. Like, we live in a postcard here.
I had clients come in last week, first time in Utah, and they're like, I feel like I could touch the mountains from my hotel room. Like, yeah. And by the way, you're here during the inversion. Wait until it's blue outside. Wait until it's like clear skies.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's a quagmire here, man. I only plan to be here 2 years, and with the exception of going to Southern California for 3 years, I've been here for.
What did you do there?
You want to hear some funny stuff? So I worked for this thing called Killer Distribution. I ran the Western Regional Sales. I was traveling like 120 days a year, like nonstop, crazy. But the owner of Killer Distribution was Travis Barker.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and there were 4 brands under Killer Distribution, which was Famous Stars and Straps shirts with a big F on it. I know you sold a bunch of those.
Oh, dude, we sold so many. Those next to Alpine Stars and Metal Militia.
Renting it.
And people would come in and you're like, that dude looks like he smokes weed. Famous Stars and Straps is right here, my guy. Let me show you. Like that was the.
Yep. It's like that or that ICP t-shirt.
And the big ass belt buckle.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what started the brand. That's why they call it Stars and Straps, because it was belts and belt buckles.
Okay.
That's what started the brand. So he owned Famous. He split Rogue Status, the gun show print t-shirts, with Rob Dyrdek. So had to deal with stuff on that. He had this brand called Expensive Taste, which was Paul Wall and Skinhead Rob and Travis had this band called Expensive Taste. So he decided to make t-shirts and stuff.
And why not?
And then
it's a great name.
Yeah, it is. It's a great. Dude, the t-shirts were ruthless. It was awesome. And then they had one other brand, which is this graphics artist named Max242. Max, great dude. Back to the Osiris shoes and Max. Those Osiris shoes that had like all like the Spanish stuff on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that paid for Max's down payment for his house. He did the graphics for that.
Good for him.
They had this brand, this like spray paint influenced band called the Wild Ones. So I kind of basically spent 3 years with that. And dude, some of the stuff I was part of in that and things like that. Never really got to like sit down with Travis very much. Would always get stuff approved. I worked with a global director of sales and he would just handle it and I kind of sit on the side. But it was like Zoolander at points in that stuff. When Travis got in that plane crash and it killed Chris, his manager, and one of his security guys, Che, and him and DJ, I'm like movie style jumped off the wing. I got a phone call. I was at my wife's parents' house. And this is what made me realize like I wanted to go back into marketing and PR was individual called me, was like, hey, this has happened. If anybody calls you from TMZ or anything like that, you'll just, you say anything, you're going to be fired on the spot. I'm like, that's good messaging. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Sweet.
You want to have a consistent message so your company would be filter it to this individual and have it in that direction. So you have a crisis management plan. I've built, I don't know how many of them for various companies, but they didn't have that. But it was handled ruthlessly, which is the company was very interesting how it was handled. But yeah, so when we went to Chris and Shay's funeral, and it was middle of LA, like whatever. And it was like the who's who and what's what of what. So back to your hanging out with Ghostface.
Yeah.
After the wedding, we were sitting there in a circle and it was crazy. Like it was just weird. We got a bunch of guys that I'm with and like we're talking with the game and with Raekwon and like a bunch of these dudes because Travis had very big influence. He's an amazing producer outside of a drummer.
Yeah.
And
he's got his hands in so many tracks.
Yeah, dude. And
people don't realize.
He's so the guy is extremely intelligent. He's so diversified. Like he owns a studio with Mark from Blink-182 and they do a bunch of production stuff and things like that outside of that. So, but yeah, like these people were real individuals. It wasn't like, hey, this guy gets paid money to make music. They really enjoyed Chris and Shay and that camaraderie. And it wasn't like, hey, buddy, where's your next track coming out? I want to see those hammers. And it was like, no, dude, like, how are the wife and kids doing? Stuff like that. And just to sit there and watch with them was really, really cool. I used to do, when we do like Magic Trade Show and stuff like that, I did that's some craziness. I would sit in the Expensive Taste booth and just hang out with Paul Wall for like 2 or 3 days. And he is a family man. He has 3 kids. Just a good dude. And that guy, if I could clone that guy to be a salesman for a company, I would do it for everybody.
He just knock him down,
he knows how to sell it. And he's not overbearing. It's really cool. So that was a pretty fun lifestyle. Definitely crazy. But it was just a little much. I had my first kid down and my wife and I were living down there and I wanted to come back here. And that's when I ended up at Snow Basin is I switched from sales back to marketing and got an amazing opportunity and went over there. But it goes back to, let's turn it full circle. Your toy machine. Spoof graphics. So when I got there, Snow Basin had a really snobby persona and things like that.
It felt way more ski than snowboard.
Yeah, way more ski than snowboard. So.
It was like you snowboard, you go to Powder Mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
You ski, you go to Snow Basin.
Yeah, pinky up all the time.
Yeah.
And
even though the resort itself was kind of like
so good.
But I mean, like the lodge and those things growing up back then, they weren't what they are now.
No. The 2002 Olympics, the Holding family did a great job leveraging, getting the downhill stuff and evaluating through land trades and whatnot that resort, what it is today. And the resort's amazing and it's very family oriented.
It's an amazing resort.
Yeah, it's great. I would suggest anybody to take their kids there, anything like that. But when I got there, they had this huge issue, and it goes back to like having correct branding and having that ground game. So what did I do? I had my sister-in-law do a bunch of graphics for me. I made a bunch of stickers. Like I did spoof Black Flag logo, like things like that people related, and get buy-in from the younger demographic. And now, like, 10 years later plus, great snowboard and ski freestyle presence.
Yeah, it doesn't have that snobby vibe to it anymore.
Very, very family oriented. But like during the summers, we started this series and it's been going for 8 years now. Blues, Brews, and Barbecues. So we started that.
I've been to many of those.
Yeah, those are good times.
Those are so fun.
Yeah, it's fun and it's family oriented. You can go and take a couple bike rides, go check out the band, get a beer. Like it's just, you sit on the grass. I mean, every resort has it out here these days, but it's just something different.
Those, I mean, when I was growing up, you'd ski there, and then no one did anything in the summer up there.
Nope, nothing.
They just shut down, and then I think they realized, wait a second, we're sitting on one of the most beautiful places in the world. We should do something with this.
Well, if you look at it, ski resorts are everybody's like, oh, they're on piles of money, and everybody drives BMWs or Porsches that work. No, resorts are a business just as you guys are.
Yeah.
Ski lift tickets, and everybody gripes about the multi-resort passes. Those cover just to keep the lights on and keep those lifts running.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
The real money is ancillary revenue, the food, the beverages, the T-shirts, things like that. And it was really funny when we started Blues, Brews, and Barbecue. The second year we had it, we were posting bigger food and beverage numbers out of one location than we do for a day than we would do all 3 locations running mid-season on a good season. And I mean, that's the margin on that's much bigger. Like it's crushing. So, and dude, it's a ski resort, man. It's super fun.
It's
like,
fun. And whether you're mountain biking or hiking up there, it's just, the temperature's cooler, but it's warm.
Yep.
It's beautiful scenery. And the truth is, Snow Basin is not that far away.
You can.
I mean, where I live in Kaysville, I'm,
it's super cool.
35 minutes.
I didn't know you were in Kaysville. I lived in Farmington during that time.
Did you? So I'm on the border of Kaysville and Farmington.
Yeah, I was about a mile south of the amusement park. So
okay, yeah, I'm on the west side, West Davis corridor now.
Okay, yep.
Shaves 10 minutes off my commute.
Yeah, how's that bridge though? It goes right over the highway, right?
Dude,
there.
that bridge going north.
Yeah,
it is gnarly. Yeah. Like they didn't mess around on that thing. I'm like, you could have softened that corner a bit.
Oh, they went full pull.
They did. Every time I go on there, I'm like, and I'm definitely slowing down, and with the weather and the wind and the ice
over there so easily because my wife would drive down into Salt Lake, and it's the same exit. We would use the same exit as Lagoon, and that bridge iced over every time, like going on the southbound all the time. And that other one's 30 feet higher. Like,
oh yeah, it's not a small bridge.
It's brutal.
It was fun watching them put it in. I'm thinking, did they do the numbers on this? Are they sure that you can go 65, 70 on that thing?
Yeah. No, you have to hit the brakes so hard.
But it legit saves me 10 minutes each way. My commute used to be 30 minutes door to door.
That's not bad.
It's 20.
Beautiful.
I mean,
even through the S-turn going home between the two plants right there, man, that's a tough spot right there.
Yeah.
That's why I used to put that S-turn between the two refineries. I would I'm obviously big digital guy. Always, digital advertising is very measurable.
Yeah.
All that stuff. You guys know that. It's part of your agency. But I would my wife used to complain about getting stuck on that S-turn every day.
So that's where you're putting the billboard.
That's why I put the billboard every time they stop doing it. But there's a battle for a few of those billboards, and they're not cheap per month.
Because they know what they're sitting on.
Oh yeah, no, they know. Stop. You're gonna look around, and there's a billboard right there.
Well, and anybody who's leaving Salt Lake going north, that's the spot.
Yep.
It's like Point of the Mountain, the other way around.
Exactly. Like, I don't know why Sundance doesn't have a billboard right there at Point of the Mountain to promote getting down to their resort, or,
Sundance is beautiful.
Oh God, it's so nice. Like it's just old school resort feel. Same thing with Brighton, but more polished.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
But it does feel like Brighton has just embraced this is who we are.
Yeah, we're locals.
I know the marketing director there, Jess. She worked with me at Expert Voice for a while.
Actually, yes. So her boss, Jared, is and I'll have to tell Jess you said hi. I see her every Sunday.
Dude, it's been a long time, but
awesome.
I thought she was the best.
Yeah,
she worked in the customer service team at Expert Voice, and we were trying to get her into marketing.
Yeah.
She went full on into marketing after I left.
Yeah, crushed it.
But I was just a huge fan of hers.
Yeah. So her boss, Jerry Winkler, the director of marketing for Brighton, or VP of marketing, I forget what it is, but he's the guy every Sunday we're making breakfast for our kids with. It's really fun. Jess she just got in there and just handling business. They got social media Mike in there. They've got a small, really dialed team, and I think they embrace what it is and they utilize it to their advantage. They know their brand. I mean, that's key. You have to know your brand, because if you don't know it, your messaging is going to be off. It's just really.
There's no other resort like Brighton in Utah.
No, there isn't. And I mean, Pall Mall tries to do it.
I was going to say that's the one that's the closest.
It's the closest, but I think they have a real. And they've got a new VP or director of marketing there. She came from Snowbird. I think came from Woodward via Snowbird. Resort industry's inbred. I think she has a good task ahead of her. They're trying to make half of it private, half of it public. They definitely have a good core presence, but it's going to be unique as the future of that resort goes. Like what direction?
That valley is just blowing up right now.
Huge. Well, you even have the resort that not a lot of people know about, the one that's in Morgan County. It's the next Yellowstone Club.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, no one ever talks about Nordic, understandably, but did you hear what just happened?
Yeah, that was so sad.
It's so sad.
But
that's the resort that I would always teach my kids.
Oh, yeah. Everybody taught their kids there.
It's so cheap. It's easy.
Yeah. It's that local spot.
I still think Nordic is a fun little mountain every once in a while.
And they've extended out into the back a little bit.
But then what? Didn't their ticketing booth catch on fire?
The whole
and the lodge
burned. Like it didn't burn flat to the ground, but it burned enough to be a loss. But I mean, hopefully they'll use that as an advantage to rebuild, maybe reposition, make it better, put another lift in right there and move the lodge over, things like that. I think you always have to look at it half full, not half empty.
Yeah.
And I hope they use it as an advantage to do it, because that resort has something special. Like they're the locals local resort, the skier, the snowboarder, which is awesome.
It's a fun little spot. I mean,
super fun.
You can ride the whole mountain in half a day.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, that might
multiple laps.
Yeah, it might not even be a whole half day.
Yeah, it would be really funny to see that. But yeah, some really, really fun years. And I've done some contract work for Brighton here and there, and a couple other resorts and Ski Utah, mostly just writing. Having really fun. And then going back to what you were saying, that young man's game, resort life can kind of be like that, but kind of not at the same time, depending on where you're at, where your position is. But I moved over into the fishing and hunting industry, and that's any man's game. It's really cool. The bandwidth and the camaraderie in that industry is really cool. You have these young bucks coming in, or just young individuals. You have these established seasoned veterans that help each other and kind of work along. I was really impressed with that.
I wondered what the change was like, because I think some people might say, well, it's all the outdoor industry, but the nuanced difference between even skate and snow.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I've never worked directly in hunting, but I've worked at Expert Voice. Hunting was a massive category for us.
You start doing that. That's 2 feet into the fire hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how different was it going from snow to hunt? And by the way, you were obviously like a hardcore snowboarder.
Mm-hmm.
Were you simultaneously a hunter and fisherman?
Yeah, my wife is really funny about it. So grew up on hunting and fly fishing. I always talk about kids who don't remember being on skis or snowboard because their parents started them off. I don't remember the first time I had a fly rod in my hand. So always done that, but I'd taken a break from hunting for 20 years. Just snowboarding and girls and driving cars and having a good time. Kind of chewed that up, and I wish I took a different direction, but that's in the past. So just move forward. Got hired by Sportsman's Warehouse to run content for the whole company, and it was really I was nervous.
It's a big role, dude.
Yeah, huge role, and I knew fly fishing, but hunting so separated
it evolved
for years.
Right?
Yeah, it had completely evolved, and it's really funny how you mentioned the traditional outdoor industry, like tents, things like that, and hunting have actually started to blend, like technology and whatnot. And you can look at, let's look at the company that really put one and one together, Sitka Clothing. Did a great job. I mean, obviously Gore-Tex owns them now. I don't think they did right off the bat, but technical apparel, technical layering, having a layering system. So whether you're hiking in the spring here where you're going to hit 3 different temps, well, same thing happens in the fall during, third rifle season. You're going to need layers. You're going to need stuff from sitting and glassing and looking for animals to hiking in on an animal, things like that. There's a lot of crossover on it, and it's only getting more. Wearing these Fuel Raven pants, it's a Swedish hiking company. Oh, and our kids love their little backpacks.
Oh, the little backpacks that nothing fits in.
Oh, yeah, nothing.
Every kid wants.
I bet you bought your kids one.
Both of my girls had them.
Yeah, exactly. I actually told my daughters no. I'm like, nope, we're going to do Under Armour ones. And they're like,
yeah, it's insane.
But all of our friends have it. And it's that Cool Fox logo. It's.
And their clothes are
these things are technically amazing. I've gone on I've gone on several hunts of these, plenty of that. But the hunting community, these don't market the hunting, but they're technically strong as an athletic trekking brand. Hunting has embraced it fully, and you've got a great pair of pants. There's a lot of crossover
because you don't necessarily see a lot of the same people going into REI and Cabela's.
No, very different historically, but a lot of hunting retailers have noticed that. They're like, all right, they're going in the RE, they'll go buy camouflage, or solids are really big now in hunting, not just camo, but they'll go and buy that, say buy their compound bow, their arrows, and then they'll drive over to REI.
Get the boots.
No, not in the boots. Get Big Agnes tents, sleeping bags, things like that. And then the hunting guys realize, these guys are running Big Agnes. So now hunting retailers have they're REI with archery and firearms.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pricing is a little bit variable, but you have this European tent company called Heelberg. Expensive at all, but they take them on expeditions. They take them in Alaska, things like that. And they're, $1,500 tents or, somewhere in that zone. And it's nuts, but all the industries are blending. Skate and snow. Skateboarding made snowboarding cool. Think of guys like John Cardiel, guy through and through the skateboarder. He had several pro snowboards with Lamar. I saw a picture of it the other day of him just doing this huge frontside Indy, just so boned out. And that's what style was. The guys like Noah Selaznick or Chris Roach that were all Noah Selaznick was a pro vert skater. And he's one of the most legendary snowboarders.
Yeah.
He's
I had a Libtech longboard for a long time. Loved that thing.
Mobbed on it, right?
Oh.
But it's
those are so dangerous, man.
I don't know how.
Brain injury is just waiting to happen.
The avenues up here, probably once a month there's a bus picking up some kid that just road rashed all down the road from that stuff.
Second North in Kaysville?
Oh, yeah.
So we took a friend. This was 20 plus years ago. He was getting ready to go on his mission. We're like, one last time. We'd go out at 3 a.m.
No cars, right?
No cars. And so it's 3 miles long. It's a pretty long steady hill.
You go
Maybe
full
not 3
send on
miles,
it
maybe
and
2 miles.
It's like you're carving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got a case of the speed wobbles, dude, and he
Got tight nose
Superman
trucks.
slid down what felt like an entire block. Just
Face, elbows, hands, everything.
dude, he looked like raw hamburger meat, his whole body.
How
I think
far-
his like mission
Yeah.
thing was just like a scab. His face was just a scab. Dustin Qualls, dude.
Dude, street cred though.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy street cred.
Like figuratively and literally street cred.
That is-
Yeah.
Oh man, that is awesome.
But you'd get the speed wobbles and just you try to outrun it.
Yeah. Oh,
Horrifying.
yeah.
You're like,
Never-
I just got to aim for a big pile of grass.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny. I was never a big longboarder. Always like ledge trick stuff, like very flip trick oriented things like that. And dude, I used to run my trucks so sloppy. Like I get wheel bite all the time and just get hammied. It was pretty funny.
But if that's the kind of riding that you're doing, you want
Yeah, you want
a lot of
trucks.
give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not day one song sloppy. Have you ever seen his truck?
His are basically not screwed on.
I think he takes the bushings out almost, or just does. I don't even know what he does. He's probably been on the same.
He
pair
just
of
rides
bushings for like
them
20
raw.
years. Yeah. I just do metal on metal. No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah.
God, that guy could ride though.
He still can. I mean, still has a full contract with Adidas.
That's wild.
Yeah, like him, dude, Mark Gonzalez. It's more for his artistic point of view, but still Adidas team rider.
It's neat to see these kids who grew up, the edge.
Yeah.
They were the outcasts.
Yep.
And then they make it in skate and you're like, okay. And now to see these guys make it beyond that, I mean, you look at Rob Dyrdek.
Oh yeah.
He's
owns
a
MTV.
machine, dude.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to a lot of what he preaches, like
Understandably.
looking at every second and every minute, but
Yeah.
But I remember that dude just being just a punk ass skate rat.
Mm-hmm. One of the original DC riders. One of the original, I think there was 13 of them. He was one of the
DC and Alien Workshop.
Yep. And he rode Alien Workshop until he stopped his pro career from point A to point B. Funny thing with that is, he got to start when they did the DC video, and he had that whole skit with Big Black.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the craziest thing is how they picked that guy out to do that? Rob had the idea of doing this skit, literally opened a phone book and was like, yeah, that looks good.
And called
Called him. That was it.
and they became besties
Yeah.
for a long while.
Yeah, for a long while. And before Big Black passed away, they mended.
I heard that they kind of came back.
Yeah, they mended ways, and that was really, really cool.
That's good for them. You don't want to...
Rob's an entrepreneur through and through.
Dude, he is a business.
Yeah.
And he treats his body like a business, like a machine.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, people, this meathead on a skateboard or snowboard, there's a lot of smart people out there. I mean, if you love him or hate him, Shaun White's done amazing stuff for snowboarding.
Oh.
He's done a great job. Made some poor decisions. Dude, I've made plenty.
Who hasn't?
I made plenty of life
But
poor
when you're
decisions.
not in the spotlight like that, those poor decisions aren't as visible for everyone else to see.
Exactly. And I mean, look at it. All the other snowboarders can bag on him, but
They
all
couldn't
the
beat him.
product, couldn't beat him.
Couldn't beat him.
But all the product he sold and brought snowboarding to people that wouldn't see snowboarding, paid those guys paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really interesting. And he was on another podcast, and it's out of Salt Lake here. And you listen to it, and he well articulated, and kind of explained it all. So really, really, really neat. Like there's more to people than 30-second videos and images and
Well, and I there's something to be said about people like that you just love the street hustle. I mean, back to Ghostface, we talked to him a lot, and he's like, people think it was easy, but a lot of people forget that we were selling records out of our trunk.
Yeah.
We were getting run out of parks. We were, we had this hustle grind. Tom Campion is the guy who founded Zoomies in the late 70s, right? Well, his story is just incredible. He was Tom was the sales manager at JCPenney, and had done it for a few years, broke record after record after record. Well, one January, he goes in for his annual review, and they're like, you had the best sales numbers in the whole company. You personally, your team, but Tom, you're not wearing our uniform. Like, we need you in a tie. Tom's like, no, I clearly I don't need it. Like, my numbers speak for themselves. I'm like, no, it's like, you have to do it. He goes, screw you guys, then I'm going to go open a store next door to you, and I'm going to put you out of business at some point in my life. I'm coming after you, JCPenney. He went and he started, not Zoomies, but it was called Above the Belt. It was just T-shirts.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's a long time
Dude,
ago.
76.
Yeah.
So he's just doing T-shirts, literally next door to JCPenney. And ironically, Zoomies is 500 plus stores deep, international, absolutely crushing. And who's closed down and dead? JCPenney.
Oh, yeah. They're big struggle fest right now.
Yeah. And Tom was always just like that street mentality.
Yeah. Hustle.
Like, just hustle. Just hustle. And no excuses. No, there's no reason not to go do your best. Mm-hmm. The thing that I like about that, though, is there's this hustle mentality, but it's not gotten to like the Grant Cardone, Andy Elliott.
No.
I mean, those guys have taken things to another level that's just absolutely insane. I can't subscribe to any of it.
It's drinking from the fire hose. And you just need to segment it. Take what benefits you personally out of it, and don't listen to the rest of the noise.
Yeah.
Back to what you were saying. I mean, that was a great example with the Zoomies owner there. So I just went to SHOT Show last week. So it stands for shooting, hunting, outdoor, and tactical. And it's big tactical, huge on the tee, and a lot of shooting. And there's hunting splashed over it. There's this real interesting mix in that world right now of shirt and tie individuals, and let's call it outdoor centric, how you and I are dressed now.
Yeah.
And there's a mix of customers. You have military, you have some of those outside what we don't think of retail. I wouldn't call it D2C, but selling to the U.S. government, things like that, where shirt and tie is expected. But then you have multi-store locations like Sportsman's Warehouse or Shields or Academy or things like that, that here's the buyer right here, right in front of you, and like, how do you find that middle ground? And is it separating your sales force or figuring that out, or maybe just own it as part of the brand of your company? Zoomies obviously knew what its brand was, and it's known for 40 years.
Yeah.
46 years, like in its installments, that is.
Yeah, it's evolved,
Yeah.
but there's always this level of like, comes from counterculture, comes from don't let someone tell you can't do something.
Yep.
Don't let someone tell you have to do it their way. You go find your own path, you do your own thing.
Yep.
Make it work. And that's why I've got friends who are closing in on 30 years at Zoomies. Like,
they take care of their people. That's another thing. Like, you can have an amazing business from a revenue point of view and things like that, but knowing your employees, knowing their understanding, their strife, their wins, what's going on both personally and professionally, and knowing your people, like, you have an amazing team here. Conversation we had right before this, what's going on with people every day, what's going on, and dealing with that, and that builds culture. And that reinforces the brand. It reinforces good things, and your business will succeed.
Yeah.
30 years this day? Dude, 3 years this day is kind of thin. Their loyalties are not there.
No. Well, I think people are realizing that you can be loyal to a company, but it doesn't mean you have to stay if it's not.
Yeah.
If it's not being loyal to you as well.
That's where I was going
right?
with it. Like, companies are not building this culture of longevity with their employees or evolution and changing of that. And I'm making
just the way that they recruit and pay new talent as opposed to train and promote internal talent. It's very much people are being rewarded for shifting.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, hey, inflation's going this way and I'm getting 2% raise. I can go to this other company and I can get a 15% raise right off the bat. And if you have a winner that's making good moves for your company, reward them accordingly, because that, tribal knowledge, how much, if you're going to give them, let's say $10,000 more a year, and they really should have $20,000 more a year, give them a win on that. But if they leave, you're going to spend 6 to 12 months bringing up that next individual, and you're going to lose more than $20,000 because of that.
For sure.
Like everybody looks at the short ball, 6 to 12 months. And you have to pay attention to EBITDA. Don't not pay attention to it. But look at that 18, 24, 36 month game. Okay, it's going to be a little thin, or our EBITDA isn't going to look that great the next 6 months, but I have value in my employees and my people, and I support them. We're going to blow it out of the water next year.
Well, I talked to my team a lot about our finances.
Great.
And a lot of companies I worked for were not willing to do that. And at some capacity, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But where I've got 15, 16 people on the team, we sit down every month. And I'm like, okay. And I might not be like, here's the exact number, but it's like, here's our percentages. Here's a benchmark we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We're at this percentage of a benchmark. And I try to help the team understand, look, I want to have a profit margin of X.
Yeah.
That profit margin isn't so I can take it and run. But every year in agency life, you have the great agency shuffle.
So
December, January, every company who works with an agency, they're looking at budgets, they're making team cuts, they're reinvesting in different strategies. They're everything is up for grabs.
Yep.
And I just flat out expect, I could lose 20 to 30% of my business overnight during this dip. So we talk a lot about, well, how do we skip the dip? What, from a sales point of view, from a client retention point of view, December and January are our red months. They're scary.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk proactively about how we save that. But I also talk to my team about, this is why I'm looking for this % in profit margin, because when we lose 20 or 30% of our business in December and January, if I haven't done that, guys, the reality is we're a small business that's never taken a loan, no investors, it's completely bootstrapped. I'd have to come to the team and be like, hey, we have to make cuts. I'm like, but instead, we save this money and we stockpile through the end of the year. We try to minimize the gap. But whatever that dip is, I got us covered because we've been saving, so we don't have to do this, so we can keep moving forward. And now, we're 3 years into this cycle, never had to do a layoff. We've had moments where we're like, ooh, this is tight.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got 5 months and in a month, we get it right back, But businesses have to be fiscally responsible. But I think it also means you have to educate your team on what that means and why maybe there are other sacrifices in the business that happen. And I think when you do that, you build a lot of loyalty and trust with the team. And then the key is you have to reward them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take care of them.
Yeah. Revenue earns, things like that, percentages that, hey, 1% of sales is going to be put in a pot. We're going to divide it up between the team or something like that. But the biggest thing that you were talking about right there is communication.
Yeah.
Having a consistent message. It goes back to crisis management. One sole consistent message that is informative to the point that benefits you, benefits your team, but gives them a little bit of exposure to a certain point. I mean, they don't want to know when you're cutting paychecks and things like that, or when the revenue is coming in or when it's going out. But communication is key. And that's a piece of the culture. And that goes in, you being open to your business and ultimately your success, right?
Yeah. I just shared a story a lot this week on LinkedIn. I worked at a company and there were rumblings of a layoff.
Yep.
My team pulls me aside. Hey, we're hearing this. Have you heard anything? I'm like, I haven't. Because I hadn't.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we have. Like, they push pretty hard. So I go grab my CEO and I'm like, look, I've got a team meeting today at 4:00. If I can't say anything, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
But my team's asking if layoffs are pending. If they're not, I'd like to be able to tell them that they're not. If they are, just tell me don't say anything. You don't have to tell me how much. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go lie to them. Dude looked me right in the eyes. He was like, not doing layoffs. Everyone's fine.
9
I had that
days,
meeting
right?
the next day.
The
next
day.
morning,
Didn't
Jason,
even give you a week.
I get into work. I look at my computer. 9:15. I get an email. Hey Nick, we're making layoffs today. Here are the people on your team that you need to let go before noon. I'm like, 4:00 last night. I just told these people. What the hell? Like that level of I never trusted him again.
Oh, totally.
Ever. And when I posted this, people blasted him. And in some ways, rightfully so. In other ways, what's he supposed to do? Let it out of the bag and then everyone's freaking out the night before and he can't he doesn't have everything in place to take care of them, to get HR ready it's not an easy thing.
No. And whether you change somebody's life when you remove a job from them, whether it's the right thing for both individuals, for one or the other, things like that, something that's beyond your power, that is a life-changing experience. Even if you're doing an amazing job, but company isn't financially strong and has to trim, they have family, they have food, they have a mortgage, things like that. And it's an ego killer too, things like that. And it's
you'll never feel more inadequate, even if it's not your fault.
Oh yeah. It's happened to me 3 times in my career.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
It does.
And it's never been a performance issue because I'm a workaholic and I'm informative and, pretty open with all the players involved with the companies I'm with. But yeah, it doesn't change the fact it hurts. You're like, man, I'm working at peak performance and it still didn't happen. Let's go back to Shaun White. You could be, when he had that, 8-year run, it was never a battle for first place. It was a battle for second place. You could have the best run of your life in that competition.
And you weren't going to beat him.
No, you weren't going to beat him. It was just how it went. But it goes back to that job thing. You're like, man, I'm operating on top. I've checked all the boxes. All my KPIs are done. And yet here I sit in my house on a Monday at 9:45 being like, man, that's a bummer.
Dude. So just to highlight that.
Yeah.
I worked at a company that had to make layoffs, mass layoffs, 25%.
Yeah.
And then we found out what happened. We had different margins when we sold into big box than when we sold into specialty.
Yep.
And our finance team, and specifically one individual in finance, when reporting our forecast, flipped those two numbers.
Oops.
Jason, we hit revenue in each channel.
Yeah.
We hit everything. What we told the market from a margin point of view was different because our, costs were different, big box to specialty. We're forced to cut 25 people off, even though we hit every single marker. We just reported it wrong initially. And here's the crazy thing. The individual that messed up the numbers
didn't get laid off.
No.
The
guilt and it happens.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
In this situation, you could point and be like, well, this is the miss.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't mean that he's solely responsible for the 25% layoffs. Because you know what? That should have gone through multiple rounds of revision and views and
checks.
We should have caught it. There's also a moment where it's like, hey, you know what? We actually just messed up forecast, but the actual forecast and where we're at with we're fine. We're holding true. That decision wasn't made either. you know, it's easy to paint someone as public enemy number one. And for a while I did.
Yeah.
I blamed that guy. I was so mad.
You know, that Bill, he's terrible.
He's
terrible. Bill.
He can't even get his numbers right, Bill.
Bill.
But that's a moment where like I had to sit down with really talented people, some of my favorite people I've ever worked with, and like, this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I'm
Hopefully
sorry.
you got him working here now.
I have worked with some of them afterwards at other places.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, I would love to work with any of those people on that team. They were remarkable. But I've definitely been a guy who like, we've worked together. Why don't you come back and work at this one? Because when you find great people, and sometimes it's not even business to business. You know, Adam Buchanan and I worked together at Expert Voice.
Yeah.
Well, now we work together kind of at Camo Fire.
Yeah.
You know,
you and I worked together at Sportsman's. And
dude, I
thought
you
that
were
was
a
a great relationship.
I loved you. I always felt like we were letting you down because we were.
You weren't letting me down. The business was what the issue was. And it still wasn't an issue. You were doing everything to deliver. Everything you told me you delivered on.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
And that's why, like, you know, seeing you walk in, I was like, oh, this guy. And I'm like,
I remember this guy.
I'm like, awesome. Let's just chat. Let's just sign a contract, just get him going and let him do it.
Dude, you were so much fun to work with at Sportsman.
I love
that. Was a fun, and what we were trying to build together was really cool.
Oh, it was really good, and I was really hoping to, you know, and I'm sure we'll work together again.
I'm sure.
We had an understanding. We had good communication. Once again, that communication piece, and it was just fun. Like, dude,
it was fun.
We had good people. We goofed around. Man, was that film studio cold though?
Oh my gosh, dude!
So cold.
I don't know why, but it was an icicle.
Well, when we had Anthony from Benchmade in there, I'm like, all right, Anthony, we're going to do, here's the 8 videos. He's like, oh, I can knock these out. I'm like, all right, don't try to go through them fast. Go through them
I remember
good,
this, yeah.
But it's going to be cold. I remember we had to break after like 4 videos just to warm up. I don't even know. It was like 70 degrees outside, but it was like
something about that room.
Center room in the building. Like, it was just weird.
It made no sense.
Funny side note about Anthony that we worked with Benchmade.
Yeah.
He was one of the head developers over at DC Shoes.
No.
For years.
Dude, what a small industry.
Super small. Let's not look at it as hunt or fish or outdoor or action sports. It's just, I don't know, alternative lifestyle industry. There you go. And he's over at Sig Sauer now, completely revolutionizing their what we call, I forgot the term, their non-rifle scope optics, and he's bringing it back to hunt because they've been very, very tactical, and the hunt market has
They felt more 5'11" than they...
Very much so.
Yeah.
They're going to be launching a line, and man, I think it's any day now, but man, once again, knowing good people, Anthony's going to do an amazing job with that because... Once back in, going and filming, I love product. I love diving through stuff.
There's something fun about product.
It's so fun. You just dork out about it. Like,
dude,
even skateboards, like, we talked about magnet traction, right? Dude, so cool. Like, reverse camber was really neat. I'm a traditional camber guy. I like that skateboard feel.
Sure.
But, like, all
How about
stuff.
Infinite Ride?
Yeah.
Dude, I nerded out so hard about Infinite Ride.
But it's another talking point. It's another... product staple that sells and moves products that make people happy. Ultimately, what do we hire your agency to do? We hire you to create a voice and experience that meets people's expectations. And if they leave like you've either met or exceeded the expectation you projected, you've won. Like when I worked at a ski resort, I always told people I worked in smiles. People walked away with a smile from their day. I don't care if they're getting carried off by ski patrol. If they were ripping turns before that or had a great burger and stuff like that, they blew their knee out at the end of the day.
But it was still a good day.
Yeah. And they loved every second of it. They're going to come back. They're going to go. You get brand loyalty. Like, back to the discussion. Loved working with you with that former company. And it wasn't the company that I loved. was the individuals that I like
well,
to do that.
we thought the same with you guys.
Yeah, it was great.
Can I say one thing that you've touched on, and I think that we share? Some of the best digital marketers that I've seen come from a world where they interacted in real life.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're just digital, it's just data.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to then transition that into the smile on the mountain.
Yep.
Right? But when you're thinking about the full experience and the metric that you're looking for is something that you can only visibly see.
Mm-hmm.
When you take that and then you pair it with a good digital marketer, I think that's when brands have something really special. They start to feel like they have a soul. They're not just some transactional business. There's a lot of brands out there that do well,
Mm-hmm.
that are just transactional. Mm-hmm. But the brands that last,
mm-hmm.
they have this emotional connection. They have a human connection that comes from people who've been on the mountain with them or been in a retail store with them or at an event or whatever it might be. But I don't think you can underplay the importance of that.
Very much so. It goes back to the success of Dog Funk in its upbringing was, and I said it earlier, I wanted to give the snowboard skate shop feel in a digital presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like sitting on the couch, watching videos, things like that. And I pitched that to Dustin and the rest of the guys, and they're like, yeah, you're a guy. This is what we need to go with. It goes to brands feel like you're wearing Vans right now, right? How long have they been around? Spicoli, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, things like that. And they've done bankruptcy a couple times, things like that. But they've never changed who they are and what their message is.
No, and you compare them to a brand like Airwalk.
Yeah.
And you see Airwalk's still around, but you see why one is Vans and one is Airwalk.
Yeah.
Airwalk lost sight.
Lost complete sight. And they went to, I think Payless owns them now or something like that. And it's the brand vision is it's gone. Like, you'd love to see a resurgence of that. I mean, Vision Streetwear tried to do it, and that fell
Kemper's
flat.
done it a bit.
They just filed for bankruptcy.
No, did they really?
Right before Christmas. It sucked. And the
Dude,
guy,
I love Jib.
Yeah, Jib, great guy. Funny side note about Jib is loosely used to snowboard with him out in New Hampshire when I grew up.
Okay.
He was riding for like when 686 first started.
Yeah.
And he was riding for the brand was Pill at the time, but it was really Scott Snowboards. Or Scott USA, which they don't make snowboards anymore. But yeah, he was a big time guy for those dudes. And it's just
he could rip, dude.
No, totally rip. And he's a great dude and he knows it, knows the passion of it. It just
there's something I like about Jib where he's so passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, if you met him, you likely wouldn't guess that he was a pro snowboarder. Like, he doesn't fit the stereotypical, like, snow bro.
Nope.
He's very quiet. He's very reserved. In fact, Vid Army made a video for his Start Engine campaign, which crushed. We took him up on top of the Boston building.
Yep.
12 stories up on their rooftop and shot, and then did like this old throwback video for him. It was for Vid Army, it was like one of the better videos that I think we ever did. But I just loved getting to know him and the story and how he was bringing it back. It's sad to hear that they filed.
I think they've filed. A friend of mine
I know it has been rough.
Yeah, a friend of mine who's invested in the company. And the crazy thing is we came off a great snow year, and I figured they would have had boost in sales then. But, it's been a little bit of a struggle. I mean, that's the struggle with the snow life is amazing product, amazing team, amazing marketing piece. What
a great story, too. The throwback.
You check every box.
Yeah.
But you could have a couple bad winters. And, you struggle. You could have a bad January and December, right? What are you talking about with your company?
Dude, a dip in snow for one season could crush a brand like Kemper.
Totally. And I'm guessing that's what happened. I haven't gotten a full story. I just heard about it last week. One of my friends did a fun little investment in it. Nothing big numbers.
I put a few bucks in.
Yeah. I wanted to put a few bucks in, but I missed my window because I was like, dude, that's a piece of history.
That's kind of why I did it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't put enough in where I'm like dying for a return or anything, but it was like Jib had commissioned us to do the video. I got to know him. I liked him. I was like, if I could float a couple bucks and help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time you see him, 686 did this awesome jacket back in the day that had, the San Diego Chargers have like the lightning bolts going around. 686 because they were originally out of like Orange County, things like that. They did a jacket like that. I'm like, oh, that thing's dope. Like, and I saw Jib running it one day, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's so sick.
He's got some good style,
dude. Smooth cat, very intelligent. Like you said. Wasn't soft-spoken back in the day, at least in my approach. But I mean, he's a few years older than me, and he was that first generation of Shred Pro type guy that I got to meet with and things like that. So it was cool to see Kemper launch and then find out who was behind him. Like, oh, this is rad! Like, here it comes.
I know you felt like it was the recipe for success.
Yeah, it was, and I obviously everything comes down to dollars and cents. I thought they did great with the throwback stuff, but I don't think they progressed past that. Like Sims has done a very similar launch, but they've progressed past that and gotten some more inline traditional.
It's a part of their story. It's not the whole story.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think I don't think it was a miss. But you compound that with the soft snow year, things like that. It can be tough. I bet he had that evolution planning. I bet it was there.
Well, and snowboard is so fickle too. A brand can be hot,
super fickle,
and then the next season, people just don't want to touch it.
Yeah,
like
that's what's
been
great
here,
about,
done that. I'm out.
Yeah, that's what's great about hunting fish. Like it's
brands are much more legacy, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not legacy. It's just, people are fickle in any industry, but like that industry, people. You can have a 5-6 year run easily before you see a bump in the road of like, oh, it's not black. Yeah. Or, hey, it doesn't have this like pattern print or anything like that. No, it's much more different. It's definitely interesting. It doesn't turn on a dime. It's more like you're not driving a Porsche. You're driving a cruise ship where it's like
a slow turn,
big hook around. You can kind of see it coming, like
because those snow brands, dude, I don't think they see it coming a lot of times. It's just like, oh, for a new rider popped off on this board.
Yep,
it's what everybody wants now.
Yeah, exactly.
It literally is that sort of.
Well, that's urban fashion.
Tumultuous.
Urban fashion's even worse. Like, and that's like when I was at Famous, they're like, well, T-Pain had this shirt on this night, so we're going to sell 1 million of them at Zoomies. I'm like, yeah, but the night after, he's wearing an Ed Hardy shirt.
You better get those millions sold now.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's got a Von Dutch hat on.
I watched that. Have you watched the Von Dutch
There's
documentary?
No.
I think it's Hulu. Check it tonight. It gave me anxiety. I couldn't almost watch the whole thing because that's what I lived while at Killer Distribution. Like a lot of hustlers, a lot of weird stuff. But there was cool things about it too. Like Trav, when we were at trade shows, Trav always wanted like a big band there to like kind of mix it up, and he'd always put his $100,000 rebuild, like 50-something Chevy or something like that in it. And the first trade show I went was like 3-6 Mafia. And I was like, all right, we got 3. We're talking like right before they broke up, like
that's a
Hardy style 3-6
moment. Yeah.
In a 40 by 40 booth and, car and like, showing line and stuff like that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then had all these really big Samoan and Tongan individuals running security. And I'm like, man, those guys look familiar. It was the Booyah Tribe.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they were running security for Travis. And it was really cool because like we'd have other trade shows. There's one trade show, he had Too Short come in, and Too Short straight up a hustler. Like that guy's Oaktown Funk hustler, super rad dude. And I was basically like keeping him entertained until we had him do like, this like a 6-song set or something like that. And dude, we literally would handle payment in like a vanilla envelope over to him. And I'm like, I don't know what's in this.
Yeah, but it's
Here you
yours.
go, short dog. And it was just like, this little kid from New Hampshire, like hanging out with Too Short for like 4 hours one afternoon. Like you're just like, dude, that short dog funk, so rad.
We had some moments like that at
Skull Candy. You've had
Skull
to.
Candy.
Yeah.
Although I had one of the most embarrassing moments at Skull Candy with a kind of a celebrity. So we're getting ready for SIA.
Yep.
And Rick his house was at the base of 9990.
Oh, I used to coach his kids at snowboarding.
Okay.
So I had access to the house.
That house is ridiculous.
Just wrong.
I mean, it's an old Enron guy before he got busted.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick got it afterwards when you're.
Yep.
But so we're at his place grabbing all of his snowboards. He's got like a world famous snowboard collection. We're going to take it to SIA. And it's during Sundance.
Yeah.
And Rick comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, will you walk up to the back to the ski lodge, like that part of his house
the back section."
Yeah. And it literally is like a ski lodge.
Yeah.
Where they bring all their stuff. He's like, I've got Slash's wife and kids coming in from the day. They're done skiing. We just like entertain them.
Yeah.
So I go up there and we're talking and doing our thing. And I'm like, "Oh, so what brings you guys out here skiing?" She's like, "Nah, Sundance, Slash is getting into horror films." And
the new Rob Zombie.
Dude, I look at her dead serious and I'm like, "Oh, it's so good to see. I love Slash. I think everything your husband's done is super cool and classy. And I think it'll be nice to see someone like that, like, enter into the horror scene. I can't get into, Zombie." And she looks at me and she was like, "So we've partnered with Zombie. We're working together with Rob." And I'm just like, "Well, I'm going to go before someone finds out and I get murdered." And she tells Rick, and Rick came down and I thought the man was going to drown me in his hot tub. Like, he was so mad, so infuriated. That was not a good moment where I'm just glad that Slash wasn't there. Because I don't know how that would have
been funny, though.
It might have, maybe he would have laughed.
Yeah, he might have laughed.
She wasn't laughing.
No.
I was like, "Get me the hell out of here as fast as I can."
Well, it's like saying, like, let's take, we'll go back to like your website design. You design a website and people are like, "Yeah, I really don't like that turquoise setup." And you're like, "Oh, I did the whole website in turquoise." Like it's that thing. And, you're an artist. He's an artist.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah, it isn't. And it's their job and lifestyle, but it's still really funny.
When you put your foot in your mouth like that, you're like, "Oh, yeah."
Just own it. Just own it.
Yeah.
When I left backcountry, we went to SIA that year, and I was working for OGO, and we were at SIA doing the SIA thing, and I took everybody. We killed it. They had a buying group show before the big SIA show. Yeah. Killed it there. Set up our SIA booth because the buying group show was what they call Rod and Curtain. Took my whole group out to the Hoffenbrau house, shenanigans, whatever, and I'm like, in the backcountry guys like, "Dude, come over. We're having a big party. North Face is like, this big party for us." I'm like, "Oh, great." And we go up to the top floor, little hazy at this point. What I do remember is tipping over Tim Osler in his wheelchair at the party. And it was total that moment, like, whoops. Needle stops. Everybody looks. And I can't pick him up and get him back in his wheelchair. It was bad. And I know whoops. I knew Timmy pretty well, and Tim's still a great friend. But I'll text him every once in a while. I'll be like, "Hey, remember that time I tipped you over in your wheelchair?" He's like, "How can I forget?"
Those are the moments, though, dude.
Yeah, it's people aren't going to forget that one.
No, and those parts. I mean, that industry, generally speaking, they party.
Street cred.
Hard, dude. We had a guy, he had the craziest job. His name was Jason Arnold. Do you happen to know this guy? Covered head to toe in tattoos. So
probably,
cowboy. You probably have.
Yeah.
He was hired at Skull Candy to be like the party boy. Like, any party we were running, he knew everyone. This man could party till 5 a.m. and then he'd be at the show at 8 a.m.
Jedi,
sober.
right? Yeah, Jedi.
Just like, yeah. And I'm like, how are you doing this? But I remember we're in Paris at this event, and it's like his moment to shine, and he went extra hard and puked all over and just wiped his face, and it was like, puke and rally, let's go again, boys, and walks over and grabs another one, just chugs it down, and you're like, dude, you're on the verge of blacking out. And he was like, this is my job, and I take this shit seriously.
Well,
and then he
Europeans
partied
love
for
that.
hours,
Yeah,
longer, and you're just like, oh, this dude don't matter. Like, how could you keep up with that? And why would you want to, really? Yeah. But I've never seen anything like it before. That was his full job. We paid him, I think he worked at Skull Candy for like 4 years, and that's all he did.
Yeah, had a company card and let the clutch go.
And they're just like, you do what you want, man.
I had a friend who did that for Tommy Hilfiger and Hugo Boss at one point. He put like an event together for Magic. We had synchronized swimmers and mini kiss. Like all in it. And it was sponsored by Peroni. And you're just like, you can't write that stuff.
You can't, dude. You can't.
Who thinks of that? You're like, don't I have synchronized swimmers every 45 minutes? Yeah, mini kiss is going to do 2 sets.
Yeah. Well, so back to Zumi's 100K.
Oh, those guys are
They
geniuses.
threw, I mean, so you'd get 2,000 people to Copper Mountain. Keystone. Yeah. Keystone ended up being kind of like the place we ended up.
Well, they had the housing. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Copper's caught up, but Keystone had the housing at the time.
We did Copper 1 year, and then it was like, this isn't big enough.
Yeah.
So Keystone, but I remember 1 year at Keystone, the theme of the party was Willy Wonka.
Oh, that must have been beautiful.
Jason, they full on, no joke, they had elephants with little people dressed as Oompa Loompas on the mountain. Like.
All right, that's so next
They had
level.
little people riding on top of elephants on the mountain. I'm like, how did they even get the elephants up here?
That's kind of dangerous, but
dude,
nice work.
It was so the amount of money that they would spend on these parties to bring in. I mean, I think the last year I was there, maybe Carrie Hart custom built a motorcycle and then rode it up on stage and gave it to the number one salesperson in the company.
Wow.
And I mean, they were giving people
posting for figures.
Well, I remember the last year I was there, they claimed that the number one salesperson, cash and prizes, walked away with like $400,000 worth of stuff because every brand all of a sudden was like, this is a moment where I can give away a motorcycle. I can do.
That's a write-off.
Someone recently and someone recently, one of the last years, just got a Tesla, like a Model X. But the number one salespeople, when I was there 15 years ago, we had people breaking like 600,000-700,000.
Yeah.
And I think someone broke $1 million a year ago.
Wow. One individual.
Insane.
There are many shops out there that don't break $1 million in a year.
Oh, that would kill to do $1 million.
Shop. Yeah.
Well, Valley Fair Mall.
Yeah.
They didn't do $1 million a year when I was there.
Yeah, but they were such a small door. You got to look at space and cost per square foot on that.
But Fashion Place as an example. So I was the store manager there 2003, 2004.
I was repping. I probably was in the store
long time
those
ago.
times.
Although you guys didn't want to come into our stores because
I would go BC Surf and Sport.
Oh yeah.
And I would go over to you because we had some initiatives to give feedback to the companies to make sure Zumiez was representing the brand right.
Got it.
And we would get like, you take a photo, you get like $25.
Yeah.
Maybe when you're 25, 24 years old, we'll take $25.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah. I'd do it now for a photo.
I can't go wrong with that.
But I remember Fashion Place was the number 6 store in the company, and we barely broke $2 million at the time.
Interesting.
And that's a long time ago. Yeah. You know, I help Dixon Flannel now, and they have a showroom in Arizona in like, it'd be like being out in California Ave. Like they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Dude, this place, the showroom prints money now. $2 million, we would be like, shut it down if it did $2 million.
The motorcycle following for Dixon is nuts. My one of my really, really good friends, anytime he goes down there, he has some other friends down there, mandatory stop by, and he drops like $500.
Oh, the AOV in the store is.
Yeah.
So they're so big in motorcycle. We did a pop-up event for them at Sturgis.
Rad.
They leased out a bank, an old bank on Main Street for the year. And
so is it a pop-up store for the whole year?
No, it's shut down now. They rented it for the whole year, put it up for Sturgis, and they're like, we're going to make enough money that we'll just let it sit empty for the rest of the year. And then we have it next year.
Rad.
So tiny spot. And Danny, the founder of Dixon, he's like, Nick, I need you to help us. We're going to do $10 million we're going to do $1 million out of that store in 9 days.
That's totally feasible.
But the store was 800 square feet. I mean,
okay. That's tough.
So I'm like, oh, okay. So we went into their warehouse and like built a mini version of it, and we were designing it here, and we ended up coming up with like doing like what Feist does or Supreme.
Yeah.
Everything was out on display, but then we had storage units in the back, and then people would walk over and
you drop a container off just full of stuff, run back, grab it.
Yep. And then we had a team that was just running from the container. We had a small space in the back of the store that was like closed off for customers. So they were like running it. And that was, it's not like we were doing retail merchandising, because we're like, how do we just make 12 flannels and hoodies look good? We had a bar with a motorcycle. I mean, we really like turned it into a badass
experience.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
Danny's in there. So like, and he's infamous to people who love Dixon. So it's like kind of getting to meet the wizard behind the curtain, but dude, we hit the numbers. And it was like, how do we do it again next year? How do we double it?
I honestly think it'll be much easier next year because people know.
People know.
Yeah, it's repetition.
Yeah.
What you should do is look at Laconia. That's the first biker rally in the whole state. Laconia, New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. I used to go up in like high school and college up there because, it was driving distance. I mean, it was 45 minutes from my house.
Well, I'd never been to South Dakota. It actually
beautiful.
Is beautiful. And what I want to do is I want to go hang out in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Like.
Was it the Black Hills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Hills.
They're so pretty.
Yeah. Steve Rennell has written about it extensively. The hunting community is huge.
And fishing, I've heard.
Yeah, fishing's huge. All of it is the outdoor hunt fish community out there is amazing. And it's so big. Like Shields, it's located in Fargo.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah. I never went to Shields. I always did Bass Pro and Cabela's. I would go visit them a lot.
Yeah, but they don't have a Ferris wheel. Man.
They don't have a Ferris wheel. Shields pretty cool, man.
Shields, they are everybody's there in shirt and ties, which is contrary to what you and I have been discussing in this.
Yeah.
They are merchandising genius.
It's a science.
They have maybe 40 doors. They are, let's just look at from the hunt point of view. If they aren't the number one Sitka dealer in the nation, they're dang close. They're top 3. And they do their education level and how they pay their employees and how they treat their employees somebody should do research on it. It's amazing how well they do. And that's why they're a big box retailer, but feels like a mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
Like you take a company like Matthews Bows, they don't sell to big box. They only sell to archery shops that have that archery tuning. They have an archery tech that's very heavily qualified. They have to check all these boxes. They're in Shields, and they'll sell. I was at the Total Archery Challenge, and I had the pleasure of walking with some of the guys from Matthews. I didn't say a word, just listened to them. And obviously, I like the talk. Here we are now.
Yeah.
Didn't listen to it or absorbed it, and they kind of laid down how Shields does stuff. And the customer experience you get there is absolutely amazing. They are.
That's the only way big box wins now is by making, basically making vignettes inside their store, making mini mom and pop shops inside a store within the store. It's got to be that.
Sportsman's has started to do that. They are, and this is very cool. I was working with them on that. If you have a store that is in a location where one of their manufacturers are, so Leopold's in the Portland, Oregon area.
Yeah.
One of their locations in there has a Leopold store within the store. They did the same thing with Hornady, which is, this is going to kill me. I like to say Nebraska. Don't hang me on that one, but they have a full Hornady store within the store. And when the pandemic hit and nobody could get ammunition, that Hornady store was fully stocked with every caliber ammo they had. They're having people that are driving over 2 states over, driving like 8 hours just to go grab the right ammo they need for their firearms.
But I think that's the only way these big box win.
Exactly. It's amazing, but it comes down to, let's talk about it. You've got big box stores. You've got ski resorts. We'll start with ski resorts. Utah ski resorts all have great terrain, right? All get amazing snow.
Mm-hmm.
They're all cooking with the same water. They all have pretty decent food.
They're all accessible.
Access is great. What does it come down to? Not employee, but customer experience.
Yep.
And it comes down to that. Same thing with stores. Like, they're battling online. We can get whatever we need online. There are some brands that don't do stuff online, things like that, but very minimalistic.
Very minimal.
But that feeling, going back to smiles, you go in that store with a set of expectations, and the experience is either to meet or excel those expectations and walk out with a smile on your face. You're paying good money for a product or an experience, and you come out feeling that store has met that, and you create consumer loyalty, brand loyalty, everything. So store within stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be the way that, I mean, when everyone thought retail was dying, it just needed to change.
Evolve.
The experience had become sterile. The experience had become
very much
completely do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I think, are realizing, like, no, we want some level of human interaction. We want some level of an experience.
Think about something we haven't really talked about. Fast food. Look at In-N-Out. Look at Chick-fil-A. How good is your user experience, whether you're walking in or going through the drive-thru? How happy the employees are there? Go back to communication, making sure the culture and the brand is spot on and the message is consistent and surgical. I mean, dude, In-N-Out has a cult following more than anything.
And their fries aren't even good.
No, the fries are garbage. Sorry, In-N-Out.
Burgers are great.
Yeah. Milkshakes are really good.
I agree to that.
Yeah.
But I would take Shake Shack food over In-N-Out.
Oh, yeah. Way more. I mean, dude, Big Lebowski, come on. Put it on his head. We got to go In-N-Out?
Dude.
I mean, right over by the In-N-Out?
Love that. Have you seen the conspiracy theory that Steve Buscemi's character in Billy Madison, Con Air, and Big Lebowski are all the same people?
Never even heard about it, but it makes perfect sense.
When you think about it, he's laying on the couch, putting lipstick on when Billy Madison calls, and then he's like, I'm not going to kill that guy.
Yep.
So then he ends up killing a bunch of people and gets caught.
Yeah.
He's Con Air.
Yeah.
He at the end, everyone thinks he's dead, but then they show him at the end playing poker in Las Vegas.
Oh man, I
doing his thing.
That.
And then all of a sudden he's at the Big Lebowski.
Yep.
And it's a small thing to note, but every time you see him, he's wearing a bowling shirt with a different name on it.
Oh, I've got
some other guy's name. So then they're like, homeboy's like murdering people and then wearing their bowling shirt. That's his trophy.
We know what I'm doing.
And that's why he's laying low, quiet in the Big Lebowski. And you're like,
he dies in the Big Lebowski. So
and he does die in the Big Lebowski.
He talks about surfing in Southern California in a big. I'm going to do a deep dive on that. The internet's going to win tonight on me.
I think that I watched some of those. I'm like, whatever. And then I watched that one. I'm like, dude, that's for reals. It totally checks out. Timeline, everything.
funny Con Air thing. There's a
Put
marketer.
the bunny back.
Yeah. The best thing ever is when Nicolas Cage steps out of the airplane for the first time and like looks up and like his hair's flowing. He has like kind of recessing hairline and things like that.
So good.
And the funniest thing, there's a marketer out here. Everybody calls him Digi Dave. He's done a bunch of stuff. He's very aggressive, old East Coaster.
Okay.
And he was working for Sierra at Tahoe. And he did this ad or something like that. And you go, that first feeling of that first lift ride. and it was him stepping out of the plane in Con Air. And they edited it perfectly, like everything. And I'm like, damn.
Well done.
Yeah, well, you know what? The golf clap.
The golf. You
get the
deserve
golf
that one.
clap on that one. It was amazing.
Okay, so last thing, because I know we got to wrap up on time.
We've been hammering time on this.
But have you ever done the Nick Cage Chrome plugin?
No. Is there one?
Dude.
Is it like Jizoogle, the Snoop Dogg?
I don't know what that one is.
Oh, you need to check it out.
So this one, my team leaves their computer and I run over and I'll install the Nick Cage
I need to do this
plugin. It's so easy.
Okay.
Google plugin, done. And then you just refresh their browser. Every image on the internet, doesn't matter what site you're on, every image is now Nick Cage. It
That's
converts,
amazing.
and some of them are GIFs or videos of him like in that moment. You go to Camofire's website, every image, Nick Cage. You're just like, who effed with my computer? What happened? It's an easy plugin.
Pure genius.
It is so funny. I think it's one of the funniest things ever.
And there we go. That's what the takeaway is from this whole conversation. Nick Cage plugin.
Nick Cage plugin, Steve Buscemi across the universe of Billy Madison, Con Air,
Yep.
and Big Lebowski. Which Big Lebowski, I'm
Legend.
throwing this out here. It's a top 10 for me.
Oh, it's top 5 for me. That and Slapshot.
Okay, I've never seen Slapshot.
Hockey movie, Hanson Brothers. Like,
Okay,
just gotta
I'll
it.
watch that.
Paul Newman, late 70s flick.
Okay, that sounds like it could be good.
Yeah.
I could get behind that.
If you're a New England hockey guy, movies in your arsenal.
Okay.
And Caddyshack. That's one.
I love Caddyshack. I wouldn't put it in top 10, but I love Caddyshack. That's my dad's favorite movie of all time.
Amazing.
He even has like the gopher now that dances. He thinks it's so funny.
All right, that's pretty awesome.
I'm like, Dad, that's how you know you're old.
Yeah, exactly.
When you buy a dancing gopher from
I think I was
Caddyshack.
like 3 when that movie came out.
that Bill Murray is just so good in that movie.
Legend status.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks for coming and chatting with us.